Today we have a insightful episode for you today on Mastering Your Kingdom podcast. We have Dr. Jeff Lindsey. Dr. Jeffery Lindsey played Division I football for Western Illinois University, where he started for 3 years as an offensive guard and left tackle. While playing football for Western Illinois University, Dr. Jeff Lindsey received awards such as Offensive Scout Team Player of the Year, and he earned his bachelor's in science in law enforcement and justice administration. He went on to get his master's in political science from Western Illinois University again. Dr. Jeffery Lindsey received his doctorate of education with a focus in higher education from Texas Southern University. Serving as the director of mentoring programs of Central State University, Dr. Jeffery Lindsey focuses on holistic development of undergraduate students. Dr. Lindsey also provides students with the opportunity to establish meaningful mentoring relationships with faculty, staff, peers, administrators, and corporate partners. Dr. Lindsey believes that mentoring relationships can provide students with the necessary support to be successful in college. His dissertation focuses on mentoring relationships and how it impacts on undergraduate students' success. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 2 of Master Your Kingdom podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Master Your Kingdom podcast, where we have a special one here today. We have Dr. Lindsey in the flesh here talking to us about how to become as successful as he is. And we're going to dive deep into all of the things that he's done in his life. And I'm going to ask all of the questions that we can get into. So, Jeff, let's go ahead and go right into it. Dr. Lindsey, thank you for being a part of the show today.
Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate you inviting me to be a guest on your show. Thank you.
Anytime, man. So, like I said, Dr. Lindsey, one of the biggest things, for the viewers that don't understand, Dr. Lindsey and I, we actually played sports together way back in high school. It seems like years and years ago. So we got to talk a little bit about that. And then what we'll do is we'll start with your sport life and then really escalate into now what you're doing with yourself, how you got to that doctor status. Okay. So on the very beginning, man, let's just jump into it. What was child like for you growing up? What was that like in your childhood?
So growing up, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, originally Maywood, Illinois, and then moved out to Bolingbrook. When I was living in Maywood, I actually played Pop Warner for 1 year, football.
Okay.
And I was overweight, so I made it 1 year, but the year after that, I was too big to play Pop Warner. And so when I moved out to Bolingbrook, and I got to high school, I was still interested in playing football. I played my sophomore year as a defensive tackle. My junior year, I got injured during summer camp and kind of, left football alone for a little while.
What injury was that? What happened exactly?
So we were doing drills in practice, and it was like a high knees over some bags. And I came down on my knee, and I felt, it was like a pop or something, but I wasn't really sure. And so I continued to practice the rest of the day. And then I went home, relaxed, went to bed that night. And I woke up the next day and I could not walk on my knee. It was swollen, it hurt, and I just couldn't walk on it.
Wow.
So I left and, kind of walked away from football that year. And then Coach Ivelo, John Ivelo, saw me in the hallway once the football season was over, and he was like, if you want to come back, we'll take you. So I gave it a second shot. And I came back. I did the whole powerlifting thing. Was one of the strongest guys on the team, and summer camp came around again, and the coaches, of course, were kind of skeptical, and were wondering if I would stick around this time. And I did. I was a starter. I started on the offensive line as the right tackle. It was my first year playing offensive line, and I was successful at it. I earned all conference in high school, and it was a great career in high school.
And I remember that. Yeah, to be honest, I remember junior year where like you said, you played the defensive, and then all of a sudden you hit the weights. You were like in the 1,000 club, 1,500 club, like some crazy amount where you're just squatting, powerlifting, and everything. I was like, dang, what has Jeff been doing? What is Dr. Jeff? You weren't Dr. Jeff at the time, but what have we been doing? But I do remember you were one of the strongest people on the team. So you just took me back down memory lane of doing those hitting drills, right? So one of the things, I want to talk about, how was that transition, right? So you got the awards, you got some of those awards in senior year. What was were you highly recruited? What did that look like transitioning into college for you?
So the transition to college, I wouldn't say I was highly recruited. I did have some NAIA schools, such as St. Francis University. It's right there in Joliet. It was another D2 in Michigan. I think it was Northern Michigan or some D2 in Michigan, and then others. But I looked into Quincy University. And although St. Francis recruited me heavily, it was too close to home. I didn't want to be, Joliet was like 30, 40 minutes from me, and I just didn't want to be that close to home. And so I went down to Quincy University, where I walked on there. They weren't recruiting me. I knew some teammates, Jordan Dillingham and Trent Noble. They were down there at Quincy University. And so I walked on, I made the team, and I practiced with the guys, and as an offensive scout team player, the defensive coordinator actually pulled me to the side and was like, "Hey, are you on scholarship? They giving you any money?" I was like, "No, I'm just here, trying to make a way." And he was like, "Oh man, we got to get you on some money. We got to do something for you." And so I continued. To practice and play for Quincy, and then when spring ball came around, the offensive line coach was actually the head coach at the time. And he told me, he was like, "Yeah, you're strong enough to play here. You got the strength, but you weren't quite ready on the field." And I had players telling me, "Oh, you should be starting this upcoming year, this and that." I'm like, "Oh." It kind of caught me off guard.
Exactly.
And so that's what happened as, my first year playing college football.
Okay. So when did that transition happen from Quincy and then going on to Western?
So actually, I applied to Southern Illinois University and Western at the same time. Southern Illinois didn't respond, so I was like, okay, they don't want me.
Western it
is. Western, they were quick, and so I was like, okay, this is it. And so I went on the visit. I liked the campus. It was a nice campus. And once I enrolled and attended Western, I was kind of hesitant on walking on because it was Division I football. I was like, I'm coming from little NAIA to Division I. Can I hang with the big boys? And so I actually talked to Roosevelt Holiday. We call him Rosie. But so I spoke to him and I said, I'm thinking about walking on at Western. He played at Eastern Illinois at the time, you played there. And he was like, "Man, you could definitely, play with these guys and start there." Absolutely. He was like, some of these guys, you know, don't even compare to how you played in high school, you know?
Yep. And
so I said, okay. And so I thought about it a little bit more. And then we actually went to one of our coaches, Phil Cardez. He actually just passed, I believe, last year or the year before.
Yeah, I heard about
so
that. Yeah.
we stopped by his house, and I was like, Coach, you know, I'm thinking about walking on to Western Illinois. It's Division I. You know, I want to play O-line there. And, you know, I'm not too sure. You know, I was kind of talking like that. And he said, Jeff, just say you're going to Western Illinois and you're playing football. You know, stop being so hesitant and you know, just claim it. Just own up to it, you know.
And
I said, man, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
And so I went that year, I went back to Western. They had walk-on tryouts. I walked on, and you know, I got the phone call later on, and you know, the head coach was like, "Hey, what number do you want?"
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Wow, I made the team. Yeah. You know, and of course, I chose the same number I had in high school, which was 69.
Yep.
And so, you know, I walked on and I practiced, and I actually walked on at 240 pounds at the time. And obviously, for Division I football, that's little for an offensive lineman. That's little. And so, that's how the transition happened from Quincy University to Western Illinois. I knew playing at Quincy that, you know, I don't want to say, like, I don't want to be like pumping my head up or anything.
You can pump your head up. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
But I knew I was better than Quincy. Absolutely. And I could play at a higher level. And so I mean, you know, Western was just it was just a perfect opportunity, and, you know, the right timing.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So that's actually a true success story if you think about it, right? Like, that's like a movie. You started as you came on as a walk-on. You literally even tried out, because, you know, some guys, they'll let them walk on and be a part of the team, but you had to try out first.
Right.
And then after you made the tryouts, they then told you made the team, and then turn around to win, you know, like you mentioned, all conference and win all these great awards. I think, what was the biggest school that you guys played against at Western that you can think of?
So the biggest school we played against was, we played Minnesota.
Okay.
We played Mizzou. They're SEC now. At the time, they were Big 12, I believe. Iowa State's Big 12.
I remember that game, actually. I don't know why, but I remember the Iowa. I think I actually watched the Iowa State game when I saw Western. I was like, oh man, my boy Jeff is on this team and starting on this. So very cool. Let me ask you this then. What do you think that football has taught you overall? Like, still to this day, like what are some attributes that you think that, or life lessons that football's taught you overall?
So overall, I would say, you know, after walking on to Western, I, you know, being a first generation college student, it was actually one summer after I walked on to Western, where, you know, it was kind of like, I was talking to my parents about financial, you know, support and whatnot. And, you know, they were like, you might not make it back to Western, you know. And I was like, and then at the time, you know, Mike Hillman was in the military, and I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to join the Army, you know, get some support, you know, once I get out and all that. But you know, they made a way. My dad, my mom, they both, you know, worked their whole lives, and they were always supportive. But that really motivated me to fight harder, I guess you could say, for a scholarship. And so the year after I walked on, I earned like 33% scholarship, and then book scholarship. And after that, you know, they put me on full scholarship. So that taught me, you know, just be if you want something, just be determined and go after it. All you have to do is go after it.
Love that.
As long as you be a mentor of mine, Dr. Thomas, I speak to him all the time. He told me, just be consistent, be determined, and go after it. Always be hungry for what you want.
Love that.
And so that's really what football taught me. Although you might have some voices in your head, some doubts, and those types of things. You have to fight through that and really look at yourself in the mirror and say, this is what I want. This is what I'm going after. And this is what I'm going to do.
Love that. So really just envision what it is that you want, and be determined enough to go and get it. And kind of just like, again, like that football thing is just effortless, right? You got to have that effort, just be able to go over, above and beyond. And just don't have any doubts in your mind,
Exactly.
Continue to keep on working towards it. So love that. Now let's just transition then. So after sports, right? You get to a point where you graduate from Western, then what is before Dr. Lindsey? What is just Jeff Lindsey looking at right now? What are you thinking about?
So, the process after playing football and graduating, it's, I guess you can say, re-identifying.
Wow.
And trying to find yourself, because through high school, through college, undergrad, you're a part of a team. All you know is football. All you know is, wake up, lift weights, watch film, practice, think about football, sleep, all that. It's all about football. So, so when I graduated, I had to really kind of figure out what I want to do with my life. And so, I thought about becoming a police officer. That's why I majored in law enforcement. And my senior year, actually, I met with the president of the university, and Dr. Jack Thomas. And, I was actually in the rec center, working in the rec center at the time. And he said, come talk to me. And so I came, spoke to him. He said, you need to stop by my office sometime so we can meet and discuss, some things and whatnot. And I let him know, my plans were to become a police officer, and and that would be my career. And he was like, you know what? You should think about getting your master's. I said, okay, well, I haven't really thought about that. I said, okay, well, let's do that. So I applied to graduate school, and I attended Western for my master's in political science, where I also was a GA for the rec center there. Nick Knowles actually gave me the opportunity to GA there because when I worked there, he liked my work ethic. And he really wanted me to be a GA there. And so as I was getting my master's, again, Dr. Thomas was like, so are you looking at doctorate programs? I said, doctorate programs?
Right.
I said, well, I hadn't thought about it, but I'll take a look at it, and see what it looks like. So I researched some programs, Tennessee State, Texas Southern, and others, and I got accepted into Texas Southern University. So I went on down to Texas. I didn't really know anyone down there. I knew Patrick Thomas. He and I worked at the Recreation Center at Western Illinois. So I knew him, but my parents, I told my parents, I said, hey, I got accepted into Texas Southern. That's where I'm going. And they were all for it. At the time, I didn't have a job. I was just kind of going on my faith and hoping that God steered me in the right direction. And so we got down there. I found an apartment. I, went to the campus, toured the campus, and it was just awesome. It's a historically Black institution. And that transition from a predominantly white institution to a historically Black institution.
So I'm gonna pause you right there. I'm gonna ask you, what was that like? Like going from a Western Illinois in the middle of wherever Western Illinois is, right, middle of nowhere, right, to this all Black is it HBCU? Yeah, to an HBCU. What was that experience like for you?
Man, it was. I must say, it was probably the best. One of the best choices I made going attending HBCU. In the atmosphere, the culture, it was just amazing.
Yeah.
You can see you can hear the band playing.
Yeah.
Campus. You can see the yard where there's Greek letters on trees, all the yard, and the people were just so welcoming.
Yeah.
The dean, she's actually serving as the provost at Texas Southern right now. I met with her, and she was just so welcoming. She's actually from Indiana, so she was like, oh, one of my Midwestern.
Oh yeah.
So she was so welcoming, and she actually allowed me to be a doctoral fellow under her.
Okay.
Under the associate dean, which was under her area.
Okay.
And I worked there as a doctoral fellow, and I just loved it. The professors, till this day, I can call two of my professors, well, three, any of them really, because they were like family. My second family down there. My dissertation chair, she was like a second mom.
Yeah.
And she really looked out for me and guided me and made sure I was on the right track.
Okay. So I'm going to backtrack for a second, because you dived a lot into, that full experience of going and understanding what the process is from going and getting your master's degree all the way into the doctorate degree. So I'll ask you this. I want to just backtrack a little bit about, when you said becoming an athlete, you had to reinvent yourself and figure out, what was that process like for you specifically? Like, what did you do to get past that? Because what I found is that I also went through that. That's why I was really like impacted by that, knowing that, it's true. Like all we know is football until football is no more. And if you think about it, that's a little traumatic, going from, say, 10 years old, 9 years old, 5 years old, sometimes all the way until 22, 21 years old. And all of a sudden now this thing is done. So what was that like for you? How did you get past that and get through that rediscovery moment in your life?
So although I, played football, loved it. I think for me, it was a little easier to get through the process, because my goal was never to go to the NFL.
Good.
And I guys, who play football, their goals are to make it to the NFL, play on Sundays.
Right.
But for me, actually, although I had, one of my offensive line coaches, he was like, the year that I won most valuable offensive lineman of the year, that he said, I want to move you to center.
Yeah.
I was playing tackle.
Yeah.
I'm a #1 left tackle for Division I football. Short.
Right.
And so he wanted to move me to center, which is more of my area for my size. That it suited me better. And if you play center, I'll put guys around you, and I'll get you. You'll get to the league. You'll get in some camp somewhere.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
But for me, I guess because I worked at the rec center on campus, and how much I enjoyed interacting with the students, and learning the different backgrounds of different students, and actually becoming, not realizing that I was a role model. Guys with me and questions and say, man, I look up to you, and those types of things. And so that really, changed my perspective, and it made me realize that I want to be in higher education.
Yeah. Wow.
This is where I want to be.
Wow.
And that, I had mentors such as Dr. Jack Thomas and Dr. Ron Williams and Dr. Hart and Dr. Brooks, just guys who me, who were at a predominantly white institution, who supported me and, would help guide me along the way and navigate my career and educational paths. They walked the walk and talked the talk. They did everything right.
Love it.
So I knew that higher education was where I wanted to be.
Love it. Love it. So kind of having those mentors and to be honest, kind of doing what you were essentially are doing now, just didn't know that that's what it is, but you wanted to do, really motivated you and kind of showed you, okay, I think I want to do this. So let's talk about this, because we hear a lot about this. Of course, we know like the doctor of the surgeons and things like that, right? But what does it take to get a doctor's of education, right? Like we hear doctors, I heard dissertation, but to be honest, I don't even know what a dissertation is, right? So walk me through that process. What does it take in order to become a doctor and get your doctorate degree?
So the Doctor of Education is the highest degree, academic degree. I mean, you can get a PhD, a doctor of they're equivalent. So basically, is the Doctor of Education is the highest degree you can get for the education field. And also use the Doctor of Education for other areas as well. But to obtain a doctorate, you have to do the coursework. Typically, for face-to-face courses, it can take anywhere from 2-3 years to complete coursework. For me, it took 3 years to complete the coursework. And then you have to do a comprehensive exam.
Wow.
Where you have to know the information that was taught in those courses. And apply them. Not only know the information, but you have to apply it to different scenarios and different things. And I must say, for the comprehensive exam for Texas Southern, we focus on research and statistics. Okay. So that's not an easy. That in itself is a beast. And so once you pass the comprehensive exam, you are then in the dissertation phase.
Okay.
Where you have to basically write a paper. I want to call it basically it's a book.
Yeah.
You're writing a book, an area that you want to do some research in. So me, because mentorship impacted my life and kind of hit me to the person that I am today, I want to focus on mentorship. And I looked at types of mentoring relationships, specifically peer, faculty, staff, and I threw electronic mentoring in there, through Skype, Zoom, and Twitter, and those different things.
Wow.
And then group mentoring. And I want to see how it impacted undergraduate students, retention, persistence, GPA, and graduation status while attending college.
One of the things I will segue to, Jeff, just to end it off, is I will say this, is if you had to end it with something that you think that you wish you had going through the doctoral process, what would that thing be? What would you recommend a person that's going through a process or looking to achieve what you achieve? What should they have, or what should they focus on?
I would say focus on what you really want to do and what makes you happy. And will ultimately kind of guide whether or not you really want to work toward a doctorate.
Absolutely.
And once you make that decision, I would say research the different universities and the different programs that are out there, and find one that fits you, because not every program is for you. Sometimes I've had a couple students, peers, in my doctorate program who transferred out. It just wasn't for them. So I would say, find an institution that fits you and make sure it's something that you are hungry for, something that you want, and something that you will use.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Lindsey, I appreciate your time and you taking the time to talk to me today. I appreciate, like I said, everything that you did and everything that you do, and continue to keep on mentoring the youth, uplifting our youth, and you have a good rest of your day. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Master Your Kingdom podcast. And if you are interested and if you like what you heard today, make sure that you follow and subscribe. This is Master Your Kingdom. Make sure you have a good day. Peace.